Ready.
I'm inviting all my guests today to accompany me in traveling through time, past, present, and future, from retrofuturism to neofuturism, tracing technological possibilities which might conjure up remembrances of such fictional perceptions as HAL 9000 of 2001 Space Odyssey, C-3PO of Star Wars, or Deep Thought in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe. And on to today's more familiar to everybody, Siri, the Apple Watch's personal assistant. And I just will go on and on during my talk, so just enjoy today's vicarious projection. There's a famous quote by William Blake, a former poet who's well known. I see the past, present, and future existing all at once before me. And there's actually a publication that's put out that is called The Future of Everything. Mother Teresa is well known, and she too was considering time, past, present, future. And what Mother Teresa said, yesterday is gone, tomorrow has not yet come. We have only today. And I think that's quite important for us to consider during the world situation at the moment. Realize, let's do the best with what we have, living and doing for good today. And then a well-known person in quantum physics, Michael Ross, wrote, yes, time is simultaneous. All probable pasts, presents, and futures exist and are happening now in the spacious present. In retrofuturism, the best way to get a really interesting viewpoint on retrofuturism is take a look back at comic books. And some of the comic books are like Back to the Future, which is a welcome to the 26th century. Then, of course, some of you are more familiar with these comic books, and comic books really do give us an insight into the topic. Of course, we have Superman, and Superman, as you know, is quite an important person. And we have Captain Comet. Captain Comet, you might not be as familiar with. He's actually a mutant metahuman, and he was born 100,000 years before time. So he's really retro-futurist. And in 1931 was the supposed date that he was born to a farm couple called John and Martha Blake. Looking at Superman, of course we know the famous saying, faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, shall we say, yes. The man of street fights never-ending battles for truth, justice, and the American way. We also have other people from the comic books. One that we don't have a slide of is Flash, and Flash was considered one of the fastest superheroes in the comic books. And as we're talking about comic books as predictors, we have Batman. Batman has to utilize his natural abilities of deduction, that's a kind of reasoning, years of all his physical training, and his strength of will to save the day. We have also somebody called Spider-Man, and Spider-Man has spider-like abilities, including superhuman strength and the ability to cling to most surfaces. He is also extremely agile and has amazing reflexes. Spider-Man also has a spider sense, that warns him of impending danger. Spider-Man has super mental powers with knowing technology.
And now let's go back
And-
to, actually, let's go to the Jetsons.
Okay. Well, we all know Rosie. Rosie is a forerunner of special robots that we have today. We do have service robots nowadays who are helping with patients in hospitals and people at home. Actual robots used in people's homes, helping them get food, servicing them. So she really was a forerunner of today's heroes of robots that are helping those in our own homes. And the Jetsons, as we said, aside from Rosie, had lots of other exciting things connected. Look at them, they could travel around in drone-like pods, and they also, in a website called screenrant.com, they said that it was 14 times that the comic book, The Jetsons, predicted the future. Okay.
A few others. I don't give specific notes on that.
Then I have For Your Eyes Only and other comic strips. Sonic. Sonic is very special. Archie. Oh, his Mr. Retro goes along with Retrofuturism, but he's not so retro in Archie comic books. Of course, my favorite is Dick Tracy. And here I have, actually, I'm going to take it off. We all know the Apple Watch. And here I have a picture of Dick Tracy with his watch. And his watch was really, 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 really special because it could actually show things like spies, and it worked as a two-way radio. I mean, that's what we have when we say, Siri, wake me up at this time. So it's sort of similar to Dick Tracy's two-way radio watch. And we have others. My favorite, because I love detective stories, is Sherlock Holmes. And actually, the type of detective he really was consulting in fictional ways of investing money, but he also knew about forensics. And we always remember Sherlock Holmes with the pipe smoking. And actually, when I was in London, I went to his supposed abode or home, 221B Baker Street. And actually, I don't know if it's genuinely where Sherlock Holmes lived, but it's open to visitors. Okay, so those are just some of the comic book futurists. Now we have other futurists. Actually, one of the most well-known is Ray Kurzweil. And we just have him listed. Okay. He was actually an engineer, and he co-founded a university called Singularity, and he always had things that connected with machines that match human intelligence. And he ran many things, like he predicted a World Congress, and he wrote a book such as The Singularity is Near. He actually was more involved with the actual happenings in the machine world that are powering all of us, and that machines that are making us smarter. And but something else he was interested in was they may not be inside our bodies yet, but he predicted that by the 2030s, we might connect our neocortex part of our brain where we do our thinking, and it would be connected to a cloud like computers. Also, we have Leonardo da Vinci. We all admire to this day his visionary art. And he also, we know his artwork, we don't always realize that he also thought of things connected with future engineering, really quite ahead of his time. The parachute, we don't think of that as futuristic, but that was certainly retro-futuristic. And the helicopter, and armored fighting vehicles, and solar power, and even the calculator. Who would have expected that from Leonardo da Vinci? And he harnessed the power of the sun for what we now use as solar panels, only he had it as his own solar power system. And he experimented in doing the power by having sunlight reflect from mirrors. And you could read a lot about his conceptualization of solar heating.
And then there's just a few additional people.
Okay, we have a few additional people.
That are listed here too.
Rodney Brooks, Kevin Ashton, and David Hawken. There's an extra L in there. They were all attracted and interested in the cult of the machine age and technological changes of the new century. And also James Barrett about artificial intelligence, but he was concerned that what if artificial intelligence gets to the point we could actually turn against us? And Marinetti, there was a famous manifesto written in 1909 called The Manifesto of Futurism. Now we get already into some things that we are familiar with, like Skylab. And actually, I can't believe it was launched in 1973. It seems so new to me yet. And Skylab was the first world's successful space station, the first manned sky place, a mission that came 2 years after the Soviet Union had launched its world first space station. So we also went into orbit around the Earth, and you can take a moment to look at the quarters of the crew in Skylab. Doesn't look very comfortable, but thinking they were up in space in a small space vehicle, that's pretty good. There's another space event that actually is in existence or about to be in existence called Aurora. And actually, it said if you want to see not one sunrise, we see one sunrise, but if you want to see 16 sunrises in one day, and if you want to float in zero gravity, be one of the very first few to gaze upon our planet also from space, they claim in just 2 years' time, and for an astronomical $9.5 million, it claims you can actually go to the interior renderings of the first luxury space hotel. You can live in space in a hotel. Aurora Station was unveiled not that long ago, and it was developed by US-based space technology, and it was a startup company called Orion Span, and it's a fully modular space station that can hold 6 people at a time, 2 crew members, and you can have a 12-day space travel. So why don't you buy a ticket to Aurora Station? Then there's SpaceX. And actually, it's, as I say up here, it's attempting to go to establish a Mars city. And it's a Starlink internet that works with it, and actually more of a low Earth orbit.
Books.
Okay, there are lots of books. I think by now everyone has heard the name of Jerry O'Neill, and we don't know that he actually wrote a book called The Colonization of Space, which has new ideas, and his new ideas of colonization kind of challenge the orthodoxy of what people think it will be like and what it's like with time, actually the definition of time, what's considered past, present, and future. I love H.G. Wells, and most everyone, if they haven't read it or gotten familiar with his The Time Machine. And then we have another futurist who wrote a book and an article on the high frontier, Donnell Davis. But this interests me. I don't know why. I have to
You don't
admit.
know how to
I'm
swim.
going to admit before all of you, I don't even know how to swim. But I would have the courage to go under the sea. Actually, these underwater habitats look quite spacious for being under the water. And as I have written down, which I might read if you have difficulty seeing the print, while man was flying into outer space in the 1960s, by the way, I had just gotten out of college by then, he was also diving into underwater worlds that was almost as mysterious as thinking of outer space. Futurists foresaw a day when entire communities of aquanauts could stay underwater for more than 24 hours and who would live and work under the ocean for months on end without resurfacing. And here you see the interior of one of the underwater hotels called the Floating Venice. And it looks quite nice. It looks like you could see the ocean from just being here. And Jody, I think when we were overseas, we went down under the water.
Mm-hmm.
And was that in
Oh, well, we
a
saw.
lot? Or
Yeah, a lot, right.
in a lot.
There's an aquarium.
There's an aquarium that's under the sea. And we went down into this under the water aquarium. And it was amazing, wasn't it? We could we were under the water looking at it, everything that was living under the Red Sea.
And then there's a water show in China where they have platforms that move, so it's very futuristic also.
Right. Thank you, Jody. Here's another article that was just recently in the
Wall Street Journal.
Wall Street Journal, as you can see this past February. And the article says, live under the sea? Oh, not for me. Okay, my real field is robotics, and there have been robotics that surpassed my visualizations. I have worked on creating computer boards and teaching computers, so I'm really interested in robotics. And I would like to speak about some of those robots. For example, Erica. And what's interesting about Erica, she has the ability to have human-like emotional expressions. You don't think of robots as having emotional feelings, only in fiction, but this is a robot that has been created. And there's also, I have down Simo. He's known because he has excellent vision. The biped, we've seen on TV different biped robots, and they have the ability to climb stairs, to walk, and even more so to assist people, with doing things within their home, but mainly the idea that he walks on two legs up and down stairs. He's so much more mobile than other robots. So there are just some of them that you could look up on your own, like Romeo and Deep Blue. Deep Blue actually is a kind of vehicle that goes under the water. And there's another one called the Floating Venice. Okay.
Oh, no, that was already.
That's not quite with robots, but robots can work it. Now, we all have, as I said at the very beginning, we all have our time machines. Some take us back and they're called memories, and some take us forward and they are called dreams. And that's a quote by Jeremy Irons. And I think I might have some other information that I didn't share yet. There are certain publications, like the Smithsonian has reprints, and there's also the Greyhound Bus Company has proposed developing a helicopter bus. And that was beginning to be worked on way back, not really, 2017. And Smithsonian Magazine has reprints. And in one of the reprints, they talk about how General Motors has been working on the concept of a car, which we now see with the Tesla a little bit, that has its own capabilities, and it's called a concept car. We also have all kinds of other things. The Star Wars robots, which predict the future of human work. And let's see what else we can go to.
You want to do your concluding remarks and then take questions?
Yes, I could go on and on. I really would love to share more information, but I will do it on a one-to-one basis if you contact me. So please do. And here you see my email address. When you type it in, it's all lowercase, Eva L. Kaplan, all lowercase, at CS, which is CompuServe.com. Or you could see, I no longer run Computers and Kids, but if you want to see the camp, which was really the first computer camp in the country, computersandkids.net, you can be able to see what I did in the way of preparing today's youth and young adults, and even adults, to the world of not only building computers, using software, designing software. Do go to computersandkids.net.
And then we're going to put in the chat the links again.
Yes, and yes, as my
Anna
daughter
L's gonna do
Jody
that.
alongside me reminded me, if you go to chats, you
The
will,
chat.
or the chat for this particular talk, you can ask questions and ask me for more places to do research on, either the predictions from the past that have come true or that are still being worked on, or which things are happening that you might know of that I can then share with other talks
You have a
that
couple
I
of
give.
futurist articles.
Yes, and I do have a lot of futuristic articles. And here are the websites that you can go to. So I'm going to have that held up on the screen for a moment or
Yeah,
two.
no, we actually put them in the chat so they could copy them.
Oh,
easy.
my daughter said, my wonderful daughter who is assisting me and doing this slide presentation, actually put them on my chat site. So if you go to chat, there are some websites listed.
So do you want to like open it up so that we can take questions
Well,
and
if
have
you
a
have-
conversation?
Is there anyone who wants to come and give a little question or a deeper question, or ask if I could answer their questions and I can get back in touch with them if they leave me their website, or not their website actually, their email address? I am very interested in this topic of the past, the present, and the future of modern life on planet Earth and in outer space and under the ocean. So do be in touch.
Yay, wonderful presentation. And now we can open it up for a conversation. If there's any questions, or Chuck, we love your background and we really appreciated your what do you call it? Where you know, lip syncing at the beginning. So thanks for setting the mood for us. But you could see there's a wide variety of information that was presented by Eva Kaplan, who really is a futurist and a visionary and has designed a lot of projects, spacewalks with museums worldwide. She's consulted in outreach activities in China that have led to a lot of futuristic programming. And so, she just is open to a conversation.
Thank you, Jody. And thank you for listening and joining my discussion here at the 47th Trenton Computer Festival.
It's the 46th with 1 year pause, so it's 47 years. Every year, Eva Kaplan has given a featured speech.
And I love doing it, always on a different topic.
So thank you for coming, and I think I'll stop the screen share and we'll just go into more of an informal Zoom conversation setting. Does that sound good, Yuri?
Yeah, sounds good. We have until 1:20, so we can
Oh, we
open
have a
it.
little, I think I mistimed it. I thought we had only until like 1.
Yeah, we got some time, so we can have some.
Oh, I got the time wrong. I thought we only had until 1, so I was moving it. Did you want to talk about any of the slides a little further, or you want to do it as a conversation?
As a conversation.
Okay, so I'm going to stop the share because this is a little more informal, participatory, if you will. So let's talk future, present, and past.
Okay, in the chat, I've never seen anybody put a whole bunch of stuff into the chat. I've always typed the things in individually. This is great. Anyway, people can pick that all up by going down to the bottom of the chat, clicking on the three dots at the lower right-hand corner, and save the chat, and that'll be saved into your downloads.
Yeah, or you could just copy and paste. So do you want to delve a little, like, does anybody remember some of those comic strips? It's really interesting that they really predicted the future. I mean, I love the Jetsons. That was my absolute obsession when I was younger. I loved the Jetsons. And so for me, it's really interesting that like 14 of the Jetsons projections came true. Oh, I'll bring the movies. That's a really
Yes,
good
I
idea.
have a lot of videos to recommend. I'm glad we have time. We forgot about the videos. Okay, can I have one that's not the Jetsons? This one. Okay, I almost forgot to tell you, all of this requires artificial intelligence. And actually, I'm going to, this video is called Artificial Intelligence. And Steven Spielberg's AI is extraordinary. And it's, I don't know if you can.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, that's an excellent video. Also, we all love this movie, the most famous 2001, A Space Odyssey. So this is another video.
Everybody kind of is familiar with it.
Here's a great Superman video. I love to collect these heroes that have to do with futurism. Jody's, here's the one that I love because it shows the Jetsons actually in their space pods. And then for Dick Tracy, here is good old Dick Tracy. This is a book that you can get, a softback. Here's another episode from Dick Tracy from a movie. This is a really good one because it will give you a lot of insight to how futuristic the writer of Dick Tracy, or the creator of Dick Tracy, was. It's the Authorized Guide to Dick Tracy. You can tell I'm into Dick Tracy. I have a Dick Tracy clip-on magnet, and it says, "Chief needs you. He needs you at the Ho on the QT." Hey, on the QT, you have to come see him on the QT. Don't tell anybody else. And here's another Dick Tracy on the Trail of the Blank.
And then your own watch.
And yes, of course,
and then those comic strips that you showed at the beginning, you actually have the originals of.
Oh yes, those are the originals. I collect Futurama. I don't know, did we hold up the?
Yeah, everybody saw those slides.
Yes, so if we can open up to chat and I can answer questions now, if possible.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody has a laser. Yes, yay. Terrific. Go with it. Do you want to say a word or two about it? That's exciting.
From Star Wars. You want to
Yes,
talk a little
I
bit
know.
about Star Wars and how so much of that is now reality to a degree? Minus Yoda.
Does anyone else in the audience have something to hold up to share about comic book characters or connected with things they've collected, connected with the future? That's great. Thank you.
If anybody wants to, they can.
I think
mute it.
somebody, I think John, you want to unmute? Share something that you saw when you were, watching something that's retro now, that's future, that's become the future.
We can't hear
John,
him.
we can't hear you, John. You're muted from your side.
Oh, he has Dick Tracy also.
Do you want to hold up any of the comics?
Can I hold up a little?
Well, we put them on the slide, but you didn't hold them up in person a little. But let's see. I don't know. John kind of ended up.
John,
being
is
muted.
there anyone else? We couldn't hear.
Todd's going to talk about his favorite cartoons or, these comics that have now come to pass.
And Todd, actually, would you tell them we had one of the very first computers?
Oh, yeah. Talk about the first computer.
Yes, the TRS-80, Model 1, Level 1. And I have a whole collection of, I could put up a computer museum. I have from the very first computers by Radio Shack, and you name them. Todd, would you join in?
Yes, but you said it all. We had one of the first TRS-80s, and then we have some the original Atari computers, the color
Atari,
computers. But yeah, you have quite a big collection in the closet, and I think they still all work. Last time we checked.
Yes.
So it's interesting how computers were like, you always think you have the most advanced and you're never going to need anything else. And that was a tape cassette recorder that my brothers would rip up each other's tapes when they got mad at each other. So like, it's now things are a little more secure. But that was so futuristic, and now it's retro.
Correct.
Very retro. Is Anna L there? What does she think is futuristic? Like now there's different comics happening. Is Anna L there, Todd? To maybe talk a little bit about her experience. Like everything looks so past that was so future for us.
I'd like to say something. When one day at home, when Todd and Jody and Ari were younger, somebody came knocking at the door and they asked for the sysops or the sysops. And I said, what are they talking about? And I had no idea that was an acronym for system operators. And they traced Todd to my home or our home in Lawrenceville, New Jersey, which was amazing. So my kids actually got me involved with computers, believe it or not. They were so enthused with it.
Well, it's interesting to think about how, art really projects the future, which might influence the future. What happened first, the idea of it, and then the reality of it. I'm taking actually a course in, oddly enough, conflict in the Middle East, and we've been studying surveillance and safe cities. And there's a city in Saudi Arabia called Neom, Neom, which is completely futuristic. It's going to open in 2030 in pods, and you're not going to need cars, nothing. I mean, you have to obviously choose the lifestyle of being under complete surveillance. But the positive side of it is that they'll read your mind, like you were talking about. Like they'll know everything. They'll pick you up at the airport, know where to take you, know what your likes are, what your styles are. Like it's going to be completely catered to your wants and needs, all through this futuristic setup. It's interesting, so this is like what is being built at the moment. I'm sure there's other examples, but I just happen to be a little more familiar and was surprised because my specialty is more China, and I think of China as the future for space and technology, but actually the Middle East is really moving in that direction pretty strongly. I don't know if anybody else has any other insights. Isn't Israel building like a futuristic city in the desert, Todd? Are you aware of that?
I mean, they built several cities in the desert, but I'm not sure if there's anything new. But
Futuristic, like kind of tests for space, little space pods, pre-outer space planets. They're building contained communities, is my understanding.
I just think also getting back to something that everyone has in their home, the television. And television has so surpassed the original TV sets.
You have one of more like the last original TV sets right now. But yeah, yes, it is impressive. Smart TV. I feel like I'm in the movie 2001 Space Odyssey whenever I do Zoom. I remember as a kid watching the movie 2001 Space Odyssey and the little girl speaking with her father on the space station and just being in awe of it. Oh, Chuck, yeah. I mean, it's so incredible. Like, I remember, like, on the one hand thinking, wow, that is unbelievable. And we do that every day right now on FaceTime on Zoom. It's just like normal. And then on the other hand, I feel like we're not as advanced as I anticipated. I always thought, oh, we're going to have colonies in outer space by the time I'm an adult. Like, I was so excited about the whole future.
Well, we're on Mars, and
we're towards Mars. We're not on Mars.
Well, we're getting there. The moon, we're definitely on the moon.
What about virtual reality?
Yes.
Well, yes. It's amazing. I have a camera that when you look through it, it turns everything into three-dimensional sight. So I have that kind of
well, that's actually
device.
really becoming common. I mean, I was speaking with a close friend of mine, is Dick Scanlon, who's an arts Broadway director, producer. And he was saying in the virtual reality world, like, you can literally go shopping in a store in Paris through virtual reality. You can like go into the store, touch the items, virtually as if you're there. It's like, and now even with the pandemic, people were like, visiting museums, visiting other cities, through this virtual reality, John.
Wow. Remember they talked about, they used to have those helmets that people put on their heads and I don't see too many of them anymore. I wonder what happened.
No, that they have more sophisticated ways in the helmet.
But yeah, I mean, that a lot of movies, we didn't really touch upon movies, a lot of movies. What is it? Was it Brainstorm?
Yes. Oh, I love Brainstorm, but she's deceased now. She
Natalie
drowned.
Wood. Yeah.
I love Natalie Wood. Yes, Brainstorm. Thank you for reminding me of Brainstorm.
John, right? Where that was like so futuristic, John, but now that's so retro. Like, we're much more advanced than that.
Yes.
Yes, thank you for Brainstorm. I have that movie also. I have all the videos.
Yeah. It's just really interesting, in helping prepare you for this talk. I was in awe of how much is so retro, John, that when I was younger was like beyond my mind's comprehension, especially the Zoom, the FaceTime.
Oh, yes. Zoom is unbelievable.
And then drones is just really interesting. I'm actually talking about like developing a think tank with artists for future collaborations with space programs, and my collaborators are at Brown and Yale, and we're talking about like drone swarms, and there's an art, and underneath the art usually there's a science that also overlaps in a military way potentially. So it's like, you get in this really odd zone when you look at drones particularly. You know, which can be used for like medical intervention and safety and heroism and, you know, war and violence on the other side. But the Jetsons started it all, right?
Yes.
Yes. Anyway, I'd like to just interject before my time elapses that if you do contact me, I have lots of really more in-depth articles that I could send you copies of, connected with the latest research
That would be
on
great.
the future. A lot of wonderful organizations. Did I list the organizations or we put it up?
No, we put some of it up, and oh, how great. Five and Dime. I love Lawn Mower Man. We'll have to take a look at all of these.
Oh, people are chatting. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah. BB, yeah, that sounds familiar, Chuck. My brothers did that. Yeah, Yuri, what's the future look like for you?
Which one of us? I intend
Yuri's
to.
the moderator. I'm like, he's young though. I'm wondering like what you are taking all of this in.
Yeah, I'm 22, so I feel like I'm just getting started. So I don't know. You never know.
Do all these comics seem like, you know, so like really, really retro for you, or interesting because it's come to pass? Like,
yeah, like a Superman. A lot of these ones I grew up on them. So you know, it's not really anything.
oh yeah, retro was in, right? The whole Marvel series.
Yeah.
Even Mr. Retro
I just think it must be really interesting to grow up where everything that you're reading is actually already happening.
It's crazy. And it's just like, it's kind of like the norm now. It's crazy how people just like, they just take it in and we just keep going. So it's to me, it's like anything's possible at this point. That's the way I look at it. Anyways, we still have 10 more minutes if we have any more questions or.
We have a little buffer because I thought we ended at 1, but we had actually, it's not goofed up. I mean, we have time for a conversation, but we've, you know, I think it's good. I think we, you know, can end a little early unless you want to talk about anything.
I think a lot of the exploration that is happening is homes, the types of architecture that's being built nowadays. It's, first of all, they've exceeded what we consider skyscrapers. They are having them built with safer electronics, with built-in features that most buildings, when I was growing up, didn't have. So you'd have ovens that turn on and turn off, refrigerators that really work on their own. They have so many things like in the home itself that we would not have conceived of years ago. So also, what about your doorbells now?
Oh God!
I mean, that's really new. You can see so who's there. They show you who's out there.
Yeah, people are like this whole viral, you know, somebody does something good, like moves a package in front of somebody's door and it goes viral.
But that's negative. How do we really feel about having that much surveillance? I don't know. I'm in a quandary about it. It has its pros and its cons with all, I mean, every street corner has cameras now in most cities, and I don't know if I like being under such surveillance.
And Alan Katz joined us, the star. Oh. Alan, Eva did a wonderful presentation, and we're now having a continued conversation with a group about the future and surveillance.
Right. Alan, do you have any new things that you're coming across since you're in technology that would be on the forefront of what's coming up?
Oh, he popped in and popped out.
Anyone else?
Chuck, what does the future look like to you?
Well, if you can you hear me? Am I doing this right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
So lightsabers are a real thing now. If you do a
I
YouTube
know, I
search,
love this.
it's so awesome. The next iteration, of course, going to the other genre of Star Trek, is I think we're going to see the Dick Tracy watch or the smartwatch turn into the communicator on our chest. I mean, right now you can take a phone and you can translate with somebody else in person, which is really cool. And that's basically
that's right.
So it is it's a wonderful thing to see how science fiction is becoming reality, which is retrofuturism. So it's just awesome. I think we could be so much further as a society if we had, like we did back in the 60s, 70s, and early 80s, a think tank where people just said, hey, you're smart, sit in a room and come up with something cool, make something. Because in reality, at least from my perspective, in the last 20 years, we haven't come up with any new innovations. It's just been expanding upon stuff we already have. As I was in the lecture previously on the computer history on the VCF, the museum, you could take an old TRS-80, take the cover off and show somebody where the central processor unit is, where the memory is, how you connect either the tape drive, the disk drive, or whatever for your input output. But you take your iPhone or your smart watch, your Apple Watch, I can't show anybody anything.
Very true.
And it's all still the same technology, just gone way beyond and expanded upon. But I haven't noticed anything new come out in like the last 20 years.
I know, that's why we're thinking, like, where do we move forward with my collaborators? And we realized the most important, we just concluded after months of meetings that we need to form a think tank. Exactly that.
Exactly.
Because, we could okay, we can pitch this project to that space program or that space program. My colleague is doing the first class in robo choreography at Brown University, Sydney Skybetter. And he, has people from all walks of life, looking at the choreographic process with robots. But, what's really needed is a think tank. That's actually the true, Chuck. So stay in touch.
Right. It's very true. I mean, I came from Ma Bell, so I worked in the in the systems for 30 some odd years before I retired. Now I've gone the other side. I'm a substitute teacher, so I go out and I educate people. So it's fun.
That's what I am, a teacher.
Yes, Mom's an educator.
Well, let me interject about what Chuck said. It's true that there isn't that many new technologies, but as an economist, I see the economics of certain technologies have changed. For instance, the electric car, it's well over 100 years old.
Correct.
But it's suddenly come into fashion because economically it's become more feasible. Even desalinization of water, that's a technology that's not new.
Yes.
But recently it's been more economically cheap to get water that way. Water is cheaper in Israel than it is in England.
What? And they have to filter it. And
they get it from the sea.
Even with the Dead Sea.
Even the new satellite communication, it isn't new. It's just improved, and the economics has changed. In terms of launching rockets, of course, the price has suddenly dropped, and the price now, thanks to SpaceX, of bringing things to space is going to be a lot lower. So it's a lot in terms of improving existing ideas and technologies to make the economics worthwhile. So that's in some sense the future might be what we have, but just at a different price and cost.
That's a good way of looking at it. I look through the art lens, Todd looks through the economic lens. Dimitri, how's the computer programming field going in terms of, computers? It's true, Chuck. It's like, it's not that different. The computers haven't changed that much.
No, I agree 100%.
But I remember thinking when even 20 years ago, I never need anything better than this. How could I ever ask for a better laptop? Then it got a little smaller and lighter, and now I'm back to my 16-inch heavier MacBook Pro. And it really hasn't changed that much, you know?
And I'm still interested in satellites and going to other planets.
One thing that I think about the computers is, imagine if the programmers and coders coded like they had to back in the past.
Right.
Imagine how fast, super fast, and what amazing things we could be doing. Of course, it will take longer to develop. And I think that we go with, like what Todd was saying, the economics, that they'd rather get the code out quicker, cheaper, faster, because memory's so cheap now, hard drives are so cheap, processors are so fast. But if you took a computer and you really programmed it like an assembly language back in the day, just imagine how super fast they would be today.
And then Todd was telling me even just currency, financial currency is using computers, the whole cryptocurrency, and it's terrible for the environment. I didn't fully understand that because of the security levels needed. But that's really interesting that it's moved from paper to computer
and this
electronic
and as
interchange.
And as you say, I don't even understand Bitcoins at all. So,
Yep.
you know, yes, even the military
I wonder
system.
what the Jetsons used for money, or the Flintstones used for money, or you know, like how much has that really changed, Todd?
Well, people used to just exchange one item for another. You know, they
right.
They
That's
do
true.
personal exchanging of items from getting products.
And then what Chuck was talking about is the phone being on your chest, almost like, you know, when I first went to China in 2001, it was really hard to translate. You needed a person. But then fast forward, you know, you have translator apps, and then you fast forward and it's like in real time translation. It's very interesting. Although one translation said, stay outside of the noodle, which really meant stay behind the line. So these translations are not perfect.
Maybe Chuck would remember, what did they use in currency in Star Wars and Star Trek?
Oh, Todd, that would be a good paper. Currency.
Yeah, they use credits. Actually, in January, I was down in Disney World, and I went to Galaxy's Edge. So every time I paid for something, I said, "Oh, how many credits?" You know, just
but how was it transferred? It wasn't a physical thing. Was it an electronic?
Yeah, it was electronic. Like Norway, since you're in the economy, you probably know that Norway, you can't go into a bank and get cash. The bank is only there for transactions between two accounts. They're trying to eliminate cash in Norway.
Hasn't Canada eliminated pennies?
My bank in Israel's that way too.
Yeah.
Really?
All right.
Yeah, next year is the last year of the penny for the United States. They're not going to mint them after 2023 anymore.
Oh.
But I think Battlestar Galactica, they actually had.
Oh, Todd froze.
I'm trying to remember.
Oh, well, Todd, that's
my internet connection. I'm back in the Stone Age internet connection.
That would be a very interesting paper on currency in movies and retrofuturism.
Well, it already is.
Yeah.
Money is disappearing in a lot of ways. You know, it's more of over the internet exchanging.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but which movie got it right? See, I seem to recall Battlestar Galactica, they had actually something physical, but I think Star Wars and others, I definitely Star Trek, there was nothing physical in money.
That's interesting.
And we haven't talked about anybody feeling concerned, like Hal was not a nice robotic person.
In 2001 Space Odyssey?
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So it's, once again, how much care are we going to take if the human element isn't involved in just these non-tangible transfers and occurrences?
Don't know.
That's a good question to leave on.
I am really thrilled. I mean, you helped make this whole session, all of you current in the conversation area. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Yuri,
And-
for being such a
Thank you.
wonderful moderator.
Yes, and do contact me because I am much better in doing responses to questions because I do a lot of research and I like to respond, not necessarily in a talk, but I will give it deep consideration and delve into a lot of different sources to answer any questions or continue a discussion. If you email, we could do it over email. So I really hope to hear from you because it's a topic that we're all involved with. I mean, the future is here.
Look back to look forward.
Yes. Thank you all for coming.
We will
Thank
remember
you.
1225 to 120,
Thank you.
March 19th, 2022, forevermore.
All right.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
It's 1:23, so we're gonna wrap it up. We're a little bit over.
Thank you,
But-
Yuri.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody, for your
Thank you.
interest and insight. You gave me insights. Thank you.
Bye. Congratulations, Eva Kaplan. Wonderful talk.
Thank you. Great.
Awesome.
You,
All right,
Bye.
so-
Great talk.
Great talk.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you. Thanks, Dimitri. Oh.
All right, so our next talk will be at 1:30. So we'll just take a little intermission break, and we'll meet up back here at 1:30.